Many of you are knee-deep in figuring out how to use Zoom, telling your students to use Zoom, and even planning an entire online digital course for the next 2 to 6 weeks on Zoom. In fact, I made videos showing you how to use Zoom. Everyone wants to use Zoom, right? However, I'm here to tell you today that using Zoom to keep your students up on digital content is a bad idea. Don't use it. You might be thinking, Dustin, you just showed me how to use Zoom and said that we could use it for digital lectures and recording my screen and having office hours. And yes, I did, because a lot of you are asking exactly how do we use it and want to know how to use it, because that's what your university is recommending. That's what you're hearing. That's what you're seeing fun songs made about on Facebook. I just watched the Stay Alive one about Zoom for teachers in higher ed. It's a really funny one. You should watch it. Zoom's not the best option. It is a great option for hosting office hours or open lecture hours where people can pop in and out and you want to have face-to-face discussions, but it is not a good option for content delivery and having your students stay up on course content, and here's why. First and foremost, a live Zoom lecture is a synchronous activity, and those are not good in this current format. If you are requiring synchronous type of work and activities and participation, you're really not serving your students very well. Beyond that, student accessibility to internet is a big challenge and hurdle right now during this shutdown. A lot of your students are not going to have internet as commonly as they would if campus was open, or even coffee shops and Starbucks and things like that. If they close, your students aren't going to have access to internet very often. And Zoom or a pre-recorded digital lecture takes a ton of data, and your students might not, one, be able to access at that time, or two, even have the bandwidth to be able to sit for an hour and 15 minutes twice a week in your lecture, not to mention the 5 other courses they have. Also, students may have less time for online learning and coursework altogether. In fact, they might not even be able to make your designated Zoom lecture times. Now, yes, they should be available, right? You'd expect your student to be available during face-to-face type lectures, but if they're home, they might be sharing a home computer with 3 of their siblings, or their roommates might all be functioning on 1 or 2 laptops if they're all staying together, or the internet may not be as good at home as it is on campus, or any number of reasons may make it so that your students don't necessarily have access to internet and the availability when they normally would. If they're parents, they might be taking care of their kids. They might have had to pick up a second job to make ends meet because they got laid off of their normal part-time job. All reasons why Zoom is not a good way to effectively communicate content right now. So let's say your students are able to make it in. They do show up to your required synchronous Zoom lecture, and you take attendance and it says they're there. They're not there. You probably have had issues with them staying on task and not distracted on their phone or their computer in your live classroom where they're surrounded by their peers and you policing them. Sitting behind a screen with access to the world's knowledge at their fingertips, they're not going to watch you. You're not more interesting than the internet. I hate to say it. I know you might think you are, but you are not more interesting than the internet. And secondly, if they mute their screen and audio, they could just walk away. They're not going to be there, and holding them accountable to that is just doing them a disservice. Don't take what I just said as like, oh, well, now I need to require mandatory participation marks where I give them a pop quiz and they all have to respond or something midway through a live lecture. It's just a bad idea. Don't do it. But I know you're clever, right? You teach at a university. You're a smart human being, so what you'll do is maybe make that lecture optional and you can just record your Zoom meeting. So an hour and 15-minute long recording gets posted online and those who couldn't make it can watch it. What a great solution. Well, it's actually a really terrible solution. If your recorded video is anything more than about 10 minutes, even at 10 minutes, that's a lot of data. and students aren't going to be able to download it or stream it or have access to it, right? We've talked about how internet is a huge barrier to staying caught up on your class right now. And if you and their 4 other classes all have to do that and they're having to download like 30 hours worth of video a week, it's not going to work. Okay, so maybe you'll do a pre-recorded 5 to 10 minute lecture, which is totally feasible, and you've heard all of your friends who have taken digital pedagogy classes and are even flipping their classrooms, and you're like, Dustin, you flipped your classroom. You have an entire biomechanics lecture series on YouTube. What a great way to teach. And yes, those pre-recorded, polished, well thought out, well constructed lectures are a phenomenal way to give content in a digital way. But again, unless you have experience doing that, unless you've got a decent mic, a decent camera, a well thought out plan for each one of those lectures, they're probably not going to be able to stay under that time limit. They're probably not going to be done as well as they need to be really effective. And again, student data may not be feasible. They might not have the ability to access videos. And besides, you're probably not as good at technology as you're willing to admit, right? You don't know how to change the input on your TV. And so trying to do all of these things in a way that's effective, not that you can't learn it, absolutely, but I think your time would be better spent giving students content in a way that is more accessible and facilitates learning better than you trying to learn something new along with it all that your students might not even be able to access. Finally, what if Zoom goes down? Every university, every K-12, every business, they're all saying, go use Zoom, we're using Zoom, Zoom, and they're starting to sound like a frickin' racetrack. I don't know anything about Zoom's infrastructure, but I can imagine that we might start running into some technical issues as the entire country and the entire world start trying to use Zoom. And so if you put all this time and energy and effort into putting your entire course in the backbone that is Zoom, and it goes down, well, now you and your students are just screwed. So there's got to be a better way. So what should we do? And you're probably like, okay, Dustin, I don't hear you giving any solutions. Well, I've got a solution, but I don't want to make this video really long. I want to respect how much internet you might have. So in my next video later today, I will tell you exactly what I think you should use that is the best, most accessible, and easy to implement way to get your students content during this campus closure. You can also go buy my temporary digital pedagogy course at epichighered.com, and it will have a ton of different ideas, a ton of different ways to put your course online, and how-to guides on each and every one of them. I'm not just going to suggest you use some technology and not show you how to use it. Everything I recommend, you're going to have a how-to video guide exactly step-by-step, button by button of how to implement it. Can't wait to chat with you in the next video.